Before I begin, I want to get some business out of the way. Tomorrow, hopefully, we can continue with part two on how, and this is my hangout with Oshi Duke Jackson. The link will be in the description down here, where we will discuss how you don't have to get white people to like you in order to respect you. And speaking of which, what I'm going to discuss are two ways in which you can get whites to respect you, in which a lot of you, including some people on the first video, were complaining about how, I don't need white people to respect me, and I don't need white people to like me neither. Well, quite frankly, one, if you don't want them to like you or respect you, I don't think you would have made that comment, much less have watched my vid. Second, you guys probably wouldn't, which I know, I don't even need to look at your videos, but I know a lot of you are the same kind of people who will go and sub to channels of people who talk about white supremacy and isolated stories of white people arresting black teens, which probably didn't get arrested, but arresting black teens, for selling bottles in the National Mall and all sort of kind of crap. These bastardized stories of just basically race baiting. So I think a lot of you probably care more about whites and what they think about you than you all let on. And let's not get started with the pro-blacks and their fronting. But a lot of blacks, a lot of Negroes, mediocre Negroes, tend to complain about how whites and other races perceive them. And quite frankly, a lot of these complaints come without some sort of action. Quite frankly, I have never been the kind of person who believes that people who don't do anything should complain. Quite frankly, if you're sitting on your ass, if you're doing nothing, then you're bitching about how other people are treating you, well, you get the price you pay for. And quite frankly, for a lot of blacks out there who tend to just want to do nothing but bitch on the internet, moan, whine, quite frankly, I think a lot of you all don't even watch this video, so a lot of you all with the double-digit IQs who want to keep buying into these race pimps of what is causing you to screw up your life personally, just stop right here. Save us all the trouble. Everyone else, continue listening. For a lot of years, a lot of blacks have complained, and I'm talking about those who legitimately can have a gripe, have pointed out to issues on why certain races, mainly whites, don't like them nor respect them. And quite frankly, this is something in which a lot of blacks tend to avoid. What I mean by what blacks are avoiding is this: solutions on how they can resolve this issue. And my belief is that there are two main solutions to how the issue of how whites and other races treat them, perceive them, and receive them. And quite frankly, if you're not willing to do either one of these solutions, then you have no room to complain. The solutions are either to assimilate or to do for your own, to build infrastructure for your own. So it's assimilation or infrastructure, simply. And what I mean by these two, I'll explain. Assimilation obviously means taking up the American culture once and for all. And now I don't mean the negative parts of American culture. Quite frankly, a lot of the negative parts of American culture are just black culture, ghetto black culture, being translated and processed for mainstream America at large. You see, you can argue whoever did this, we can argue who, but a lot of the stuff that has worked on black America as a detriment is being translated to America at large, to mainstream America at large. And quite frankly, there are some things that blacks are better off not doing, not participating in, like feminism, single motherhood, all this other kind of stuff. But quite frankly, there are parts of American culture that blacks need to just basically take up. And there are certain aspects of the black culture, which, when I say black culture, I mean it with an asterisk. A lot of this stuff is just things that are based on chattel slavery, such as certain kind of soul foods, certain kind of language, mainly Ebonics, certain kind of mentalities, such as being emotional, not being disciplined, not putting your pleasures to the side, short-term sacrifice for long-term gain, all those kind of things in which made America great. Not great again, but just to say how it is. All these positive aspects that black culture refuses to take up just because a lot of blacks feel as if whatever they do, we got to do opposite of, just to piss off the man. Which goes to show you, a lot of you all care too much about what whites think of you. And by caring too much, I mean, you all take it, like I say, yeah, you don't have to like them to respect you. And by me saying, oh, getting their respect, look, it doesn't mean kissing their ass. It means being able to coexist in close proximity. That's my mission. And that's what I want to emphasize, or that's why I want to emphasize when I say assimilation and integration. A lot of blacks have to give up this niggified culture. Quite frankly, a lot of the stuff that blacks embracing is niggified. Or I don't even say niggified, maybe just negrofied. Like, just the collard green sandwiches and the Ebonics and the hood stuff and the hood mentality, just the hood swag. You have to give that up. I'm sorry. Every other race who's been successful has given up traits and cultures and things that were not compatible with the United States of America. And you especially, if nothing else, you have to give up the stuff that's straight up niggified. Like single motherhood, I'll throw in Ebonics, things of that nature. It's crime, hood culture, big booty culture, thug worship, all this other shit that blacks tend to pride themselves on. You have to give it up. It's as simple as that. And a lot of you are going to be reluctant. A lot of you are going to be resistant. A lot of you are going to be like, why I got to get up that. Man, fuck that shit. You coon, no. You coon, man. Well, okay. I'm a coon, alright? I'm a coon for wanting to live in a civilization where all people can get along and everyone can cooperate and live in peace and all this other idealistic, egalitarian shit. Oh, okay, fine. Well, build your own civilizations. Build your own societies. Build your own infrastructure. That's option number 2. And quite frankly, for what I'm seeing right now, a lot of you refuse to do that too. A lot of you who will bitch and complain about how whites will not want you in their neighborhoods and not want you to, not want to be around you, are the same ones who will refuse to build for yourself and have your own rules and have people play by your rules and all this other kind of stuff. Trust me. And to you guys, once again, I say, you have no room to complain. But there are some people, there are some places, including where I'm from, where there are neighborhoods where they have actually, you can say in some cases, just drove the whites away, but there are some cases in which they literally have built their own neighborhoods from the ground up and have since been able to make their own rules, establish their own codes of conduct, and to have their culture, the American black culture, no matter how bastardized and ghettofied it is, to be the standard. And there are places in the Atlanta area, places in the DC area, places in, to a lesser extent, your Dallas, Charlotte, Houston, places where they play by their own rules because they have their own places. They have their own malls. They have their own neighborhood shops. They have their own suburban houses or urban neighborhoods, whatever. I'm talking about functional places. I'm not talking about these Detroits or Southside Chicago's or Baltimore's or areas that are only functional because they're being gentrified out. Brooklyn, Bronx, DC proper. I'm talking about these other places, like other places out west, like your places in Los Angeles, like your Baldwin Hills, La Brea Heights, places in the Oakland Hills, for example. The same examples of blacks who have their own neighborhoods, or at least are plurality in their neighborhoods, and they have a say on what goes on. Quite frankly, you can say what you want about some of these places, and I have my gripes with some of these places. I moved from one of these places because I just didn't want to play by their rules. But one thing you have to say about these places is that they have built their own. Yeah, they've built. They did it. They built their own infrastructure. They built their own establishments, or at the very least, they've maintained it to an adequate degree, an adequate grade in which people at the very least can do some sort of commerce in those areas. No matter how swagified and ghettofied they are. And I include where I'm from. A lot of these places, you have people who tend to, on the surface, seem to be ghetto and hood and no better than your Man Manson little twins in the hood, in the ghetto hoods, the literal ghetto hoods. But a lot of these people do tend to work. They tend to do for self. They tend to provide for their own, and they tend to be responsible citizens of society. And quite frankly, the people who come in there, particularly the non-blacks who come in there, abide by their rules, are under their infrastructure, are under their control, and they're not in a domineering, I won't say theocratic, but dictatorial sort of way. But when you're in their house, when a non-black person is in the house of blacks who have built for themselves, they have to comply. Either comply or get out. And quite frankly, for those who built for themselves, that's their right. And I want to say this, it's also their right for those individuals to call out racism, to call out quote-unquote white supremacy. And a lot of these people don't call out white supremacy in the same way that these bums who just sit around, beg whites for everything, and bitch when they don't get it, yet won't do for themselves do. But a lot of these people who build their own infrastructure, their own black infrastructures, they tend to call out racism, white supremacy, in a way in which makes sense most of the time. I mean, there's a reason why I don't bitch when people like O'Shea Duke Jackson and your Angry Mans and your Minister Japs, your Ringo TV Rawls call out white supremacy or acts of white supremacists. There's a reason why I don't get in their ass, because they provide for themselves and they have built for themselves, or at the very least are in the plans of building for themselves, providing for themselves. I mean, hell, you know, some of these people I mentioned and some other small YouTubers who outright hate whites, or at least don't trust them as a group. Hell, O'Shea himself has been admitting how he doesn't trust a lot of whites as a group, particularly white conservatives. He's been on this tangent now, which I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Because, quite frankly, him and people like him know where they want to be in the spectrum. And I think these are the kind of people who be in your predominantly upper and middle class black neighborhoods and play by their rules without any sort of retaliation from the greater American society. People like myself, for instance, would rather be, I don't want to say in the greater American society per se, but would rather deal with people regardless of race who have a similar mindset. So those are the two roads, or the two decisions that Black America must decide on what to take. And we all don't have to take the same damn road. I think that's the other thing that a lot of people get caught up in, is that we all have to do the same damn thing. No, we don't. Quite frankly, it's very disadvantageous for all Black America to choose one side or the other, whether it's outright assimilation, such and such, or outright isolation. And even though we have good infrastructures that are on point with whites, and quite frankly, back to the first example of assimilation, the reason why I emphasize assimilation and integration and getting rid of quote-unquote black culture or slave culture is that if you do that, and I emphasize this more on my video on it's not your pigmentation, it's your reputation. If you improve your reputation, a lot of the stigmas that follow the black race will vanish. It happened for Jews, it happened for Asians. And it wasn't long ago where they were as hated almost as much as blacks, if not more in certain parts of the countries. Now, they're running the fucking show, especially in California. Don't get me started in the anti-Semitism and the xenophobia that existed out there. And now you can't get Jews and Asians to leave California to say, anyway, that's a whole nother story. Yeah. There's no reason why blacks can't enjoy that same turnaround of reputation and be seen as being a wanted minority, or at the very least a neutral minority. But for all of you who are reluctant and still are fighting this internal race battle of fuck whitey, all right, build your own. You build your own, or get with the program. But people who I will not respect are those who won't do either one and yet bitch and moan and complain about white supremacy. You all know where you can go with that. So make your choice. And quite frankly, as I stated before, we don't need to go in the same direction. And to be honest, there are some of us who need to choose one, and some of us who need to choose the other, to put the black race overall at the best advantage. For everyone else out there, always bet on X.